I'm Indra,
And I'm Amanda.
and we'd like to welcome you to The Messy Middle Matters. Hey, Amanda, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Indra?
I'm good. I'm good. Today we're going to be talking about a couple of words that make both of our skins crawl. And we're going to be talking about rock stars and unicorns.
To be clear, I like unicorns. I like the idea of unicorns. Unicorns, they're pretty and sparkly, but they're not real.
They're not real, despite Scotland having it, I think, as their national animal. But yes, they do not exist still today in this universe. No, they do not, well, rock stars do exist, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. But before we go in and dig into our conversation, I did ask ChatGPT to give me a couple of working definitions that we can use so that all of our listeners are baselined in their understanding of the two terms. So a rock star is a high-performing standout candidate or employee who consistently delivers exceptional results, often exceeding expectations. The term is used to describe someone with a strong track record, deep expertise, and the ability to thrive under pressure. A contextual note is that while it's meant as praise, calling someone a rock star, it can sometimes signal focus on an individual performance over a collaboration or perpetuate a culture that rewards visible wins rather than sustainable team-based success. It may also reflect a bias towards charisma or confidence rather than competence or consistency. I love me. I love it when ChatGPT just can nail something for me and say the words in a really clear way.
I was gonna say, ChatGPT nailed that.
Nailed it. And if I ever say it on this episode, I name my ChatGPT Kathy. So we talk about Kathy. Y'all know that's my nickname for ChatGPT, and how I've trained her. Okay, so unicorns. The definition that Kathy gave me for a unicorn is a rare candidate who meets an unusually specific or ideal set of criteria, often combining technical excellence, strategic thinking, cross-functional fluency, and interpersonal skills that seem too good to be true. The contextual note that she gave us is hiring managers often say that they're looking for a unicorn when writing a job description. It lists out an unrealistic combination of skills or experience. It can indicate perfectionism in hiring expectations or misalignment between the role's needs and market realities. The term may unintentionally discourage qualified candidates from applying. So magical thinking when it comes to when somebody writes up that job description that's looking unicorn hunting.
Right. And the definitions that you just read off say a lot of things about ideals, right? Idealistic expectations, unrealistic expectations. So why are companies looking for those things?
100%. And I find that it's usually it can come out of, we talked about it in recent episodes, scarcity mindset, like this feeling of like, I need a unicorn. Like there's everyone believes that these unicorns exist, and it doesn't, right? Or it can be budgetary constraints, or it can be pressure from like their need to deliver something, and what they're being asked to do is unrealistic. So they look for a candidate that's just as unrealistic. It's just like it perpetuates and snowballs.
Yeah, I think, both rockstar and unicorn, um, those terms disguise like the company's lack of clarity or like not knowing what they want, right? Like
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the time the company is just not sure what they want. So they're just like, you know what? We're just going to write all this stuff down and
Yeah.
hope that someone comes along who can read our minds and just like know what to do and be good at all of it.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. I mean, it's yes. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about the unicorn fallacy. We'll dig into them really specifically. So unicorn fallacy, yeah, it's have you ever found a unicorn, or have you found I mean, I've got lots of scenarios where people go unicorn hunting. And like I said, it's usually in that job description phase. And my job is often to help them reset expectations, figure out exactly why they've decided that they need somebody who can design, code, create a marketing strategy, and figure out how to tease things apart so that we can set some realistic expectations when we're going to the market. Like those are the scenarios for me when it comes to the unicorn hunting that I've seen happen. Do you have any sort of scenarios that come to mind for you?
Yeah, not explicitly unicorn hunting, right? I can't recall, doesn't mean I didn't experience it, but I can't recall a company I worked for that posted a job description that was like, we want rock stars, we want unicorns, right? But I participated in a lot of hiring panels,
Mm,
and I got that I was able to experience the ins and outs of being on those panels and the feedback and those conversations that happen.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I've seen cases where everything seemed great from a feedback perspective,
Yeah.
but there were comments of like, oh, well, they were great in all of these things that, by the way, we asked for,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
they
yeah,
they
yeah,
can't
yeah.
do this, and this. And it's just like, okay, well,
Ooh.
you're never gonna find that person. Like, here are some things, like, let's be realistic here. Here are some things that you need to change, right? Like, one, your expectations. Two, if you're expecting all of these things, you can't be paying this low of a number.
Mm. I love the fact that you talked about like the job description, the person ticked all the marks, right? Like everything that was there, all the requirements, maybe even the nice to haves, right?
Yep.
Those in the job description. But then there's all these things that can get inserted at the 11th hour, often enough because that person who's adding those requirements just experienced some stress in a meeting that this person could, like, they're like, well, we need somebody who also knows how to do costume design. I know that we talked that we need a software engineer, but I also need somebody who specializes in sequence. Like, where did that
Right.
go from? Dude, I mean, that's a clearly fictitious example, but yeah, it can be that knee jerk reaction that shows up in that panel discussion.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to start off unicorn
Yeah.
hunting, but you might end up unicorn hunting without
Accidentally.
realizing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If you don't check yourself. And I think that it's a really fair. I mean, I noted the one of the reasons that I often find that people are hunting for their unicorns is budget constraints. But then you because you can't hire the three people that you need to actually do the job, you put it all into one job description, you offer the one salary. And anyone who has that kind of any form of that kind of super set of skills is going to, and if they know their worth, they're never going to settle for that like one third salary.
Oh, right. They're going to realize really quick that this is actually three separate jobs.
Gosh, gosh, yeah, it's wild. It's wild. So okay, so we talked a little bit about the unicorns. Let's talk about the rock stars. But like I think that we are talking about it earlier. Like this often is something that can land. It's not necessarily in the seeking of a new person for the team. It really appears as the team exists and like during the day-to-day work and some of the stuff that goes there. And there is this when I think of rock stars in general, like, or the classic pop culture example is like, what's on their rider?
Right.
What's on their rider? Do they need only green M&Ms? Like, what's on their rider?
Yeah. I saw a meme sort of recently that was to I wish I had pulled it up and found it and pulled it up before this episode, but it was something to the effect of everybody wants to hire a rock star, but then they get mad that they show up late and like have a list of demands. Like, what do you want?
You hired an ego. And that's, and sometimes it can be worth having that rock star. Like there was somebody who I inherited on one of my teams along the way. And he refused to be on calls, he refused to come into the office, he refused to, like, there are all these different things. And it was because he was hired at a time when I mean, it was a very particular skill set that we needed, but as we built out the team and we had more people who could do the same job as this person, like it became problematic. It became problematic. And it was really interesting with me to help like trying to navigate and understand how much I needed to hold on to this person who was the rock star for all this time versus how I could create a healthy balance on the team that I was leading.
Yeah, as you were describing this rock star, a few rock stars I've encountered in my career came to mind, and it they all have that at least the people I have in mind.
Yeah.
They all have that they were hired at an earlier stage.
Yep.
They were, they had a certain set of skills, or they
Yep.
had that more generalist skill set because
Yep.
they could wear many hats. And it was possible to be a high achiever because the company was small at the time.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And right. And like they've just built all of this social capital within the company as well.
Mm-hmm.
And as the company grew and scaled, it's like, well, pick a lane. You
Yeah.
don't need to do all of it. And you don't need to act that way.
No, no, you don't. And it sort of makes, it doesn't sort of, it does make enough of your other team members feel like less than. Like when you
Yeah.
keep on calling that person, oh, they're the rock star, they're the this, they're the that. Like, those people feel, like less, like I said, less than. They can feel a little bit icky. And it can also then, if they see, Mr. or Ms. Rockstar getting rewarded for this more garish behavior, it then encourages people, especially early in their career, to act more garishly. Like I'm
Right.
sitting here thinking around, it's not quite the same, but it is the same. Like, so I worked at WeWork. I worked there during the peak and the downfall. Like, so it was really interesting, well documented too.
Mhm.
And like Adam Newman. Adam Newman was our CEO. What a personality. Like, what a personality. And in the startup world, you do need a leader who has magical thinking, who can rally people, who can pull folks together, who can like galvanize folks and create a movement of sorts, right? But what can happen is that the rest of the talent then starts to act that way. And I'm not saying that they happened all over the place or whatever. I like the WeWork had some of the most talented, heartfelt individuals. Like I just want to just like really, really set that straight because there's a lot of misconceptions around what it was like to work at WeWork and who was working there. But from time to time, you'd see somebody acting in a particular way, and you're like, whoa, 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 that works for Adam, not going to work here. Just like, and I see how you get swept up in that and you start to emulate these types of behaviors and you don't even think about it. It's not even necessarily in your nature. And you start doing some of these like things like, oh, if he was successful doing that, maybe I should try that out. And that doesn't, if you have too many people who are rock stars on a team or think that they're rock stars on a team, you breed a whole nother set of problems.
Right. And I think calling people rock stars is a slippery slope. And I think in many cases, it's not meant to be, negative, right? It's
No.
meant to be like it's very well
Yes.
intentioned,
A
right?
hundred percent.
Very well intentioned, like, Indra, you're a rock star. Like you're just crushing it. You're a rock star. And when I've been called a rock star, because of, I guess, just what I've experienced of other people, being called rock stars and this behavior that happens and all of the things we just mentioned. When I've been called a rock star, I have like a kind of reaction now. I'm like, thank you, but really, like, I don't know. Like I don't want to I don't need that pressure of maintaining rock star status, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. But I also like the fact that you talked about how, like, that first time that someone calls you a rock star, it feels kind of good.
It does. It does. And then you realize what it takes to be a rock star and to maintain that rock star status. And it's just an unnecessary amount of pressure
It's
and that like on
unrealistic.
yourself.
It's
Yeah,
unrealistic. You want to be a
on
normal
yourself.
person again.
Right. And then you think about how, like we mentioned, how it impacts the rest of
Yeah.
the team. And you're like, oh, this actually isn't a good thing.
Yeah. And I think that, where I've seen it used well, that phrase is, Amanda was a rock star in this particular situation. For this week, we needed her to step up and she was a rock star in this moment. And we're not going to expect that for her forever. But she knew how important this was. And high fives for Amanda for stepping up in this moment. Like, you can, deputize somebody as a temporary rock star. And I think that's a good way to use some sort of accolade, and whether or not you use like literally that phrase or not. There's other synonyms for rock stars that are out there, or even sometimes say, oh, if you're such a unicorn, you can do so many things. Like, use it very judiciously if it does slip out, or add a qualifier afterwards and say, hey, you're awesome. Thank you. I don't expect that of you all the time,
Right.
but like, for this moment, I'm so happy you did it, and thank you. We're all grateful for it.
Yeah. It's just going back to setting realistic expectations.
Realistic expectations. And another thing, it's not a rock star, it's not a unicorn, but another term that I hear an awful lot that is in my opinion, is an unrealistic expectation, is the myth of a full stack engineer, a full stack designer, a full stack any human being. I don't I think I find this term problematic. I don't know what we're going to dig into this. So don't worry, folks. I'm not going to just say this line and like walk away from it. But, I don't know what your impression is of that terminology or experiences with that particular turn of phrase or label or title.
Yeah. The full stack is an interesting one because I do think the idea, the concept of a full stack engineer exists,
Mm-hmm.
but what we are defining as a full stack and with the broader we
Yeah.
are defining as a full stack engineer perhaps is not the most realistic.
I think that's a good way to phrase it. I think that there is, when somebody hears full stack engineer, their brain automatically assumes, oh, they can do everything and they can do it all like a rock star.
Right. They can do all of the things and they can do all of the things well. And that is not realistic.
No, no, which is where I love the terminology, something I was introduced to years ago. When it first came into the zeitgeist, it was I people and T shaped people. So the I shaped person is somebody with deep, like they're a specialist. They're really deep in one particular field or skill or whatever it might be. Like, they are just really focused on that and don't necessarily have other skills. So if we're thinking, let's just use software engineers and continue down that. They're a database engineer. They know databases really well. That's their skill set. You should never ask them to create HTML or, microservices or whatever else you might need to do. They really specialize in something. And then there's the idea of a T-shaped person. So T-shaped person, you can think of it like a tree. Like, there's a trunk of a tree. They're really good at database engineering, but they have enough skills where they can dabble in HTML. They can dabble in microservices. They can dabble in, I always use Flash technology as my ridiculous example sometimes, but like, there's other technologies that they can function in, and they can support on an as needed basis, or they can pontificate on and give a little bit of perspective on, like the I's and the T's. Since then, a whole bunch of other letters have showed up into the vocabulary. I never understand what any of those are.
I know during our prep call,
Yeah,
we went into some of the other letters, and I'm like, are we just making things up now?
they
It's
are.
alphabet soup, right?
People are. Wait, what was our favorite one? So I think we both had heard of M's and W's,
Mhm.
which again we'll get it. We might touch on those a little bit, but the ones that stuck out for both of us were the X's and the pies. Like, when did the Greek alphabet show up?
Right. And I read the definition and I'm like, I still don't really get
Right.
it.
But like, so back to the full stack engineer, I think that full stack engineers are generally T's, right?
Mhm.
They are T's and, leveraging that like T metaphor and that tree metaphor that I was just thinking about, like there's your trunk. You can be like a banyan tree, and these aerial roots might drop down to the ground to help support and you draw more nutrition from the ground. You might have like, hey, I also can do HTML. I also can do microservices. I can also do XML. I can also do, whatever piece of technology, but it's your trunk is your trunk.
Right. Your trunk is like the solid,
Yeah.
rooted, this is your domain. This is your expertise. I love the visual of a banyan tree. The Lahaina banyan tree
I
is
love her.
special to both of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, and the aerial roots, they exist and they're all over the place, but they're not as solid as that main trunk.
No. And some of them are really thick and some
Mhm.
of them are really skinny.
Right. Right.
But the person really, maybe a person has like two relatively equal. I could see that's where that pie comes in, right? Whatever. But like, there could be some aerial roots that have dropped down that are like have a thicker piece. And people could mistake that as the main trunk of the tree. Okay, fine. But you're never going to find somebody who's got all the aerial roots for all the things. Like in design, it's like, are they a UX designer? Are they a UI designer? Are they a UX strategist? Are they a content strategist? Like these things don't, realistically, they don't exist. Or if they do exist and you encounter them, you just need to be grateful that you found that person. And isn't
Right.
that lovely? And it's a gift. And you should not create a job description to find more of this particular person because they're so unique and so special. Don't call them a rock star all the time because that can cause problems. But, don't go try and hunt for more of them.
Right. Right. Like, congratulations, you found your
Congratulations.
unicorn,
It's
right?
great.
But they're your unicorn. You don't, what are the chances you're going to find a herd of unicorns?
And I was at a talk and I met somebody who used to be he was one of their heads of compensation at SpaceX, right, during its really scaling phase
Mhm.
of things. And so compensation, trying to figure out like making sure that people are getting the right salaries for their roles. And one of the things that he saw through this experience was how, and let's just one more thing, I'm sorry, one more important thing is they are hiring for people who are at the bleeding edge of BLEEDING. So not leading edge, bleeding edge, like way, you're like they're in no man's land when it comes to talent. And what he was seeing was that people were asking for somebody with a PhD in some sort of tensile physics technology, because I mean, we're talking about literal rocket science here. And understanding that somebody would want to have somebody who understands all of the things that are necessary to go to Mars from a physics perspective or an engineering perspective, or I don't even know what all the other stuff that they need to
Right.
worry
The
about.
rocket science perspective.
The rocket science, you need rocket scientists. But the reality of it is that let's say for some of these roles that they would wanted to hire, there are only 12 people with a PhD in that particular thing in the world. And you're trying to hire 24 people. So even if you got all 12 people, which is not realistic, how do you figure this out? So like you really need to set your own expectations when you're hiring and not trying to find too many unicorns, because if you do find one, it was a blessing. It was a blessing. You were so lucky to get one. Don't look for too many more. Look for people who have really have the aptitude to maybe step up and become unicorn like.
Right. Unicorn adjacent.
Unicorn
Rockstar
adjacent,
adjacent.
rockstar
Yeah.
adjacent. The occasion they can dabble in rock stardom.
Right. They're good for the band, right? They're good for the rock group.
Love that I hadn't thought of this earlier, but like I'm sitting here thinking like there's different kinds of bands that are out there. There are bands that rely on harmonies versus the ones that rely on that person who's way out front. I think in the workplace we need to worry about things that are harmonies, like the Bangles from the '80s, right? The Bangles group.
Yeah.
What was their thing? They really modeled themselves off of the Beatles in some ways. And it was really about different people taking the lead on the songs at different times. Like they didn't have the one front person who was always singing lead vocals. They took turns. And so I think that that's really what you want to think about when you're thinking of building out your team or how you talk about the members of your team. It requires everyone. It requires everyone. And sometimes one person will take the lead and sometimes another person might take the lead. And sometimes it might be the same person who takes the lead most often, but you need to find that harmony.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up the Bangles. It just brought me back to my childhood.
Right?
And what's beautiful about the Bangles is that they all play instruments. They all play multiple instruments, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. And you're right. There, yes, Susanna was like the lead most
Yeah.
of the time, but all the others sang too.
They sang too. They sang too. And they knew that. They knew that they were a ensemble.
Yep.
You know, they were an ensemble. They worked as a collective and they succeeded together. And yeah, I adore the Bangles. I'm gonna have to listen to some Bangles after we end recording.
I know. Now I have Manic Monday stuck in my head.
Oh, I got Hero Takes a Fall.
Oh, that's a good one too.
All right. Um, but yeah, any other thoughts? I think we've covered a lot of good ground on this
I think
one.
so too. Yeah, I
Anything
think
else you
we're
want to add? Yeah.
no, I think just the lesson here is stop hunting unicorns. And if you
Stop
find
hunting
one,
unicorns.
congratulations. You found one.
Congratulations.
But don't expect a herd of them.
No. No, don't expect a herd. Yes. Oh, we could have. Oh, I love this. I love this. Amanda, thank you for joining me in another thoughtful conversation. And to all of our listeners for joining us. Hopefully, everyone heard something that helped them feel a little bit more seen or supported or validated. And we hope that you join us next time when we explore another topic from the messy middle. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for taking time with us in the messy middle. Word of mouth remains the most powerful way for people to find us. If this episode sparked something for you, we'd love it if you'd subscribe to the podcast on your favorite app, download a few episodes, and share it with someone else who's navigating the in between. Do you have ideas for future episodes or topics you'd like us to explore? You can find our feedback form at themessymiddlematters.com or in the show notes. Thank you for joining us on this journey. This work is better when we do it together. Until next time.